There are certain things in life that are not complicated, but they only work if you actually stay consistent with them, like brushing your teeth, which, just to be clear, is not a high-level skill. It's just something that you have to do daily. And when something becomes automatic, sometimes you stop paying attention to it. You rush it, you shorten it, you do the thing where you're technically doing it, but mentally you're already moved on to the next thing. And nothing really bad happens, which is honestly part of the problem, because if there were immediate consequences, you'd probably adjust. But there aren't. So everything feels fine. And over time, small things start to build, don't they? Not dramatically or all at once, just gradually, quietly, until one day something that didn't seem like a big deal starts asking for your attention, like a toothache, and you're left trying to figure out, when did this actually start? Because it didn't feel like a moment. It felt like nothing, over and over again. And that's how a lot of things that shape a life actually work. They don't usually show up all at once. They start small and then they get repeated, revisited, returned to. A thought you didn't challenge, a reaction you keep replaying in your mind, a pattern you slowly get used to. And if you're not paying attention, you don't just experience those things, you start to feed them. And over time, what you feed starts shaping you. Hey, this is Jonathan, a counselor at Sound Mind, a professor at the Living Faith Bible Institute, and a pastor right here in Kansas City at Midtown Baptist Temple. And this is Sound Mind, where we take a deeper look at life through a biblical lens. Today, we are continuing our series called The Things That Spread. Last episode, we started looking at how things in a life don't usually change all at once. They slowly permeate into our life, quietly and gradually, often under the surface. But in this episode, we're going to take a step further, because it's one thing to notice something is there. It's a whole nother thing to ask, how did this grow? What kept it going? What kept feeding it? Because most of the time, it's not that something showed up, it's something that was being sustained. All right, let's talk about it. There's this moment, and it's not dramatic when it happens. It actually feels small. You notice something in you, not just a thought. It could be a reaction you didn't expect, a frustration that lingers longer than it should, a disappointment you keep replaying. Maybe it's comparison or jealousy. Maybe it's how quickly you assume the worst about someone. Maybe it's something different, like a craving for something you know isn't good for you. Maybe it's a quiet pull towards something, like your attention or approval, or looking for escape, or maybe needing control. And what usually is the truth is that it's not that loud. It's subtle. A shift in how you see someone, hardening in how you respond. A growing indifference where there used to be care. And at first, it doesn't feel like much, just something insignificant. You don't really confront it even. You just let it sit there, and then it happens again and again and again. And this time, you stay with it a little bit longer. You replay the moment, you rehearse the thought, you start building a case, and without realizing it, you're feeding it. And what we know is that what gets repeated begins to get reinforced. What fires together, wires together. And what gets reinforced gets rooted. And after a while, it doesn't feel like a moment anymore. It feels like you. Like your perspective is just accurate, like your reaction is just justified, and something along the way you stop questioning it. You just start to live from it. And if you're honest, you don't even remember when it started. You just know it's there now. And by the time they show up on the surface, they've already been growing underneath. Because most things that shape you don't arrive all at once. They get fed. Last episode, we looked at Leviticus 13, this idea of something spreading slowly and quietly until it couldn't be ignored anymore. And what Scripture was showing us is that this wasn't just about a skin disease, it was a picture. Leprosy is a picture of sin, because what shows up outwardly is often revealing something deeper, isn't it? And we actually see that play out in a really specific moment with the children of Israel in the wilderness. By this point, they've been out of Egypt for a while. God delivered them. He's providing for them. He's organizing them. And the tension, it's not coming from the enemies of Israel out there. It starts coming from within the camp. And we see this play out in a very vivid way in Numbers 12 with Miriam. This is Moses' sister, and it starts small. We see in Numbers chapter 12, verse 1, it says, "And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses. Hath the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not spoken also by us?" Man, that's where it starts. Not with an action, not with this massive, huge collapse, with a thought that permeates into speech from a place and position of comparison, with a question that sounds spiritual, but it isn't. Because on the surface, it sounds like concern, but underneath, it's most definitely something else. It's pride, it's positioning, it's why him and not me? And for a while, that's all it is, just words. But words often don't just stay words, because what gets repeated gets reinforced, and what gets reinforced gets rooted. And eventually what's been happening internally starts to show up externally. We see in Numbers 12, verse 9, it says, "And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them." And then it says that Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And this is jarring, because now what was hidden is undeniable. Her condition on the outside is revealing what's been happening on the inside. And this is a massive connection. Leviticus 13 showed us how something spreads, but this moment, it shows us where it starts. Not on the skin, but in the heart. And this is really important because it didn't become a problem when it started. It became a problem when it was fed. And just to be clear, what was happening there in that dispensation isn't how God works in the same way with us today. In that moment, God is doing something very specific with Israel. He's taking something internal and making it visible. He's revealing on the outside what's been happening on the inside. Not because every sin results in the same kind of judgment, but because he's teaching them something. He's showing them that sin doesn't stay contained. And for us, right now in this dispensation of grace, God isn't striking people with visible diseases like that, but the principle hasn't changed. Because even if it's not showing up on your skin, it's still shaping your life. It's still affecting your relationships. It's still changing how you see people, how you respond. It's still spreading. Okay, so listen, this didn't just stop with Miriam. What we start to see as we follow the children of Israel through the wilderness is that this is a pattern. You see it in what they feed. Take the way they start complaining about food. God is providing for them every single day. He gives them manna, bread from heaven. This isn't just scraps. This is daily supernatural provision. And at first they receive it, but over time, they start to get tired of it. And man, I can kind of relate with them on this. Marcy makes me this incredible healthy sandwich for lunch. Like, it's genuinely awesome. The first day, I'm super grateful. I'm talking about it. This is amazing. You've outdone yourself. So then she makes it again the next day. It's still good, still super thankful. You're the best. Then the next day, I'm like, man, this amazing sandwich is starting to feel less amazing. And then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about tacos and pizza and reminiscing about the dollar menu from years ago. Anything but this incredibly healthy, perfectly made sandwich just for me. The next thing you know, I'm devising a plan about how I can get a 5-layer burrito from Taco Bell with a Baja Blast. And that is actually insane. But that's exactly what they're doing, right? God is feeding them, and instead of receiving it, they start rehearsing what they don't have. And the more they rehearse, the more it becomes real to them, until Egypt, the place they were enslaved for hundreds of years, starts to feel better than it actually was. And that pattern, it doesn't stay there. And you see this pattern again and again with the children of Israel, all the way up to the edge of the promised land. So then in Numbers 13, they send in the spies to check out the land. And they come back talking about the land, but then they start talking about the giants. They start comparing themselves. They start to shrink back, and we see in Numbers 13, verse 31, they say, "We be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we." And then later in the passage, we see it say, "And there we saw the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight." Did you hear that? It said, we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. That's not just a report anymore. That's identity. And once that belief takes hold, it spreads. Because the next chapter says, "And all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night." And then it goes on to say, "And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron and said, 'Would God that we had died in the land of Egypt.'" Now it's not just a few voices. It's everyone. And here's the truth. Whatever you feed long enough will become the way that you see everything. And that's what's happening. Fear fed long enough became the lens they saw everything through. So now it doesn't matter what God promised. It doesn't matter what actually is true. All they can see is what they've been feeding. And when you step back and look at it, this pattern, what they fed, it grew, and what grew started shaping how they saw everything, and none of it started big. A complaint, a comparison, a fear, a craving. And instead of confronting it, they just stayed with it. They rehearsed it, they talked about it, they reinforced it, and over time, those things didn't stay contained. They shaped an entire people. So this is where it starts to get a little bit more personal, because we do this all the time, don't we? We can hear everything we just talked about and see it almost instantly in someone else. We can watch someone spiral. We can watch someone rehearse something. We can watch them get stuck in a pattern and then just think, man, they're feeding that. But it's hard to see it in ourselves. And part of the reason is because most of what shapes us doesn't feel obvious when it's happening. It feels normal. It feels like that's just how it is. That's just how I feel. This is just what makes sense. And if you don't slow down, you never question it. But if you do, if you slow down long enough and you get quiet enough, you can usually trace it. You can start to follow it back. Not just what's there, but what's been fed. And I think sometimes that's hard for us to admit. So what I do with people a lot of times is we'll just start to say it out loud. There's something really powerful when you say something out loud, because it goes out of your mouth and then it has the opportunity to go back in your own ears. So we're not filtering anything. We're not cleaning it up. We're just saying what's true. So it could sound like this. The truth is, I keep replaying that conversation. The truth is, I keep thinking about them in this way. The truth is, when everything gets quiet, my mind goes right back there. So then when you say it out loud, you start to hear it differently. You start to realize, this isn't random. This is something I've been rehearsing, and the Bible actually speaks directly to that. We see in Proverbs 4:23, it says, "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." That word issues there, it's the idea of a flow. What's coming out of your life is coming from somewhere. It's not disconnected. And then just a few chapters later in Proverbs 23:7, it says, "For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he." That's not talking about a passing thought. That's talking about what you consistently think, what you dwell on, what you return to over time. That becomes you. And then you get to Romans 12, verse 2. It says, "And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." See, that's not instant, is it? That's not one decision. That's something happening over time. Something being shaped again and again. Which also means if your mind isn't being renewed, it still is being formed. Just not intentionally. Galatians 6:7 says it like this, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." We see the same principle, don't we? What you keep planting, you will eventually live in. So when you step back and look at it, a lot of what we're dealing with isn't something that just showed up in one day. It's actually something that's been fed. And that can be really hard to sit with and to hear, but it actually is really helpful because it helps us ask a better question. Instead of just asking, "What's wrong with me?" you start asking, "What have I been feeding?" Because whatever you feed, you strengthen. And whatever you strengthen starts shaping how you see everything. And eventually, it doesn't even feel like something you're doing anymore. It just feels like, this is who I am. But a lot of the time, it actually isn't who you are. Listen, it's what you've been feeding. And if it's been fed, it can also be starved, and something else can grow in its place. So if that's true, if what I'm experiencing isn't random, if it's something that's been actually fed over and over in my life, then what do I do about it? Because most of us don't think like that. We don't ask, what am I feeding? We just live inside it. We feel something, we follow it, we revisit it, and we don't realize we're reinforcing it. So the shift starts right here. We need to learn to notice it. Not necessarily to fix it, not to clean it up, just know that it's happening. This is where my mind just went. This is what I'm rehearsing again. And this is where we can be under attack. Because if you're not careful, you'll notice it. And then you will immediately shame yourself for it. What's wrong with me? Why am I still here? I thought I dealt with this. And this is why I absolutely love Romans chapter 7. Because when you read Romans 7, it almost feels relieving. Paul walks us through all of it. He says, I do what I don't want to do. That makes sense. There's something in me working against me. Man, that makes sense. In my flesh dwelleth no good thing. That makes sense. What Paul is doing here is he's helping you understand there's a war happening inside of you. When a thought shows up or a pattern gets repeated, when something surfaces again, your first response isn't, what's wrong with me? It's, you know what? That makes sense. Not because you want it to be there, but because you understand where it's coming from. And that, listen, changes everything. Because now instead of shame, there's clarity and compassion, and clarity creates space. And in that space, you can actually do something with it. Because now you're not hiding it. You're not pretending it shouldn't be there. You're seeing it for what it is. And that's what allows you to actually apply 2 Corinthians 10, verse 5. Casting down imaginations and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. You can't cast something down if you're still pretending it shouldn't exist. So instead, you notice it, you name it, that thought again, that pattern, and instead of collapsing into shame, you respond with truth. Romans 8:1. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. Praise God. So now you're not stuck in, why am I like this? You're able to say, this is what my flesh does. And because of that, you can actually surrender it. Not stuff it, not justify it, surrender it. And then you start choosing what to feed instead. At one point in my life, I was sponsored by Taco Bell. Yes. Which if I had a resume, you better believe it would be on there. I'm not sure how this happened, but somehow Taco Bell endorsed the band that I was in. It's crazy. I didn't even know that could be a thing, but it was a thing. And I know people used to say Taco Bell doesn't taste like food, but it definitely tasted more like food then than it does now. Okay. We had what they called Taco Bell bucks. It was literally like Monopoly money. You'd walk in, order whatever you wanted, hand them this fake, colorful Monopoly money, and walk out with a Mexican pizza, cinnamon twist, and a Baja Blast. Clearly, I was living the good life. And at least once a day, sometimes more. And of course, if you're a Taco Bell connoisseur like myself, you know about the fourth meal. This is that late night, after a show, Could be early in the morning meal, and you're driving down the highway, you've got a Crunchwrap Supreme in one hand and your extra large Baja Blast in the other. You eat it, you switch drivers, and then you go and fall asleep in the back seat. And of course, I didn't think anything about it. But something was happening, because Baja Blast is basically just a massive sugar bomb. And over time, I started to notice this little tiny, insignificant, no big deal toothache. Nothing major because, of course, I woke up every morning and I brushed my teeth. So obviously there isn't a problem. And this just kept happening. And touring is not exactly built for regular dentist appointments. So I'd schedule one, cancel it, reschedule it, cancel it again. Something was always coming up. Until finally, there was a day of reckoning. I'm sitting there, they're doing the exam, and the dentist looks at me and gives me a number. And let me just tell you, I'm not even going to say the number, because whatever number you're thinking, my number was higher. And what's so humiliating about this, up until that point, I had never had a cavity in my life. And now suddenly, I've got all of the cavities. Now, nothing about that happened overnight, did it? It wasn't just one Baja Blast. It was what I kept feeding. And it's actually hilarious that Taco Bell called the endorsement that they gave us Feed the Beat. I just didn't realize it was feeding something back. And that's how this works. It's not usually the one moment you remember. It's the pattern you slowly got used to and didn't notice. It's what you kept going back to, what you kept rehearsing, what you kept feeding. And over time, it didn't just stay small. It started shaping more than you thought. Most things don't take over your life all at once. They start small. A thought you return to, something you rehearse, a pattern you keep feeding. And over time, what you feed starts shaping how you see everything. So maybe the question isn't, what's showing up in my life, but what have I been feeding? If this episode stirred up more than just a few thoughts, maybe you're starting to notice how easily small things gain ground in your life. Not necessarily massive, dramatic failures, just patterns that quietly repeat themselves. Maybe you have a thought that you keep returning to, or a reaction in you that keeps resurfacing, or maybe a habit that is slowly deepening into a path in your life. Most of the time, those things don't feel alarming. They feel understandable, easy to explain, but over time, the things we minimize can become the things that shape us. And if you're starting to see some of those patterns in your own life, the awareness is actually a gift, because the goal of the Christian life isn't to pretend nothing is wrong. It's to walk honestly before the Lord and allow Him to keep shaping us. If this episode surfaced something in your heart, it might be worth talking about it with someone you trust. Talk to a friend. Talk to someone who's earned the right to speak into your life. And if you're looking for biblical counseling, you can reach out to soundmind.live. We'd be glad to help you connect with someone near you. And if you are a counselor or in training and this kind of soul level work, it resonates with you, you can email me directly at jonathan@soundmind.live. We're always working to expand our network of trusted referrals. And hey, if this episode was helpful, would you consider rating and reviewing Sound Mind wherever you listen? It really does help people find their way here. You can also follow us along on Instagram and Facebook at soundmind.live. Search soundmind.live. This is where we have short reflections and reminders right in the middle of your week. And for more thoughtful biblical conversations, check out the Postscript. You can search the Postscript wherever you listen. And if you want to know the Bible for yourself, do yourself a favor and check out the Living Faith Bible Institute at lfbi.org. Thanks for listening, and until next time, take care.